Here are 10 steps to you getting your first co-living property or your first rental property. One of the most common questions that I've started to get more recently is just like, hey, what are the steps to getting a rental property? You know, for me, it comes so second nature. Bought many, many homes, tens and tens of homes. And so it just comes second nature. But there are really some key elements. And these are going to be tailored to co-living, but they will also apply, a lot of these will apply to just getting any rental property that you specifically need. The first thing you need to do is simply determine what your budget is for a property. The best way that I recommend that people do this is simply go start talking to lenders. Now, you could talk to one lender or you could talk to 20 lenders. Talking to 20 lenders is always good. You don't need to be nervous about talking to a lender. Lenders are like salespeople. They want to sell you money. They want to sell you loans. And so by talking to a bunch of them and getting to compete with each other a little bit, you're going to get the best deal. You should talk to some investor loans. There's a loan called debt service coverage ratio, DSCR loans. You should talk to those guys. You should talk to regular conventional loan officers. Basically, anybody who's a loan officer, you should talk to and get a quote. And what you're looking for is just a pre-approval letter, which means they've looked over all of your finances and they have said you can buy a house up to this amount. That's incredibly key. Number two, select a great location for your co-living property or whatever rental property you're buying. All right, this includes making sure that you are doing the market research, making sure that you're within 45 minutes for co-living, making sure you're within 45 minutes of a downtown area. This also includes making sure that you are maybe running some test ads. We'll talk about that more in a moment to test if that market can handle what the demand is for co-living. Maybe it makes sure that you're near employers, making sure there's a strong demand. A lot of things, if I'm going into a new area, I always like to talk to the realtors in that area to get a sense for what the demand is for rental properties and what that's like. I also might look on Craigslist or apartments.com or Zillow to see what things are actually renting for in that area, but you've got to select the right location that you feel comfortable with moving forward. Number three is to find a good co-living mentor or a good rental property mentor. You know, the truth is this, man, like you can find a great mentor, but it's got to be a mentor that knows the road ahead. I always give this analogy of, imagine you're driving up this highway trying to get to the top of a mountain, and along this highway, you know, someone who's driven that road 1,000,000 times, they can go faster along that road because they know every pothole, right? They know every ditch. They know what turns they've got to slow down on and what turns they can speed up on. But if you're driving that highway for the first time to get to the top of the mountain, like, you got to go pretty slowly. And if you don't go slowly, because you don't know the potholes and the ditches, you might end up in the ditch, right? And so that's the value of having a mentor, someone that's literally driven that road ahead of you 1,000,000 times. They've gone down that road. They've done what you want to do many times. And so they know when to say, hey, slow down, there's a ditch. Okay, now speed up. They can give you that advice, and what they can do is they can turn, I learned this saying from Tony Robbins, is they turn decades into days. So what would normally take you driving really carefully to figure everything out, boom, you just go because you have the right mentor. Number four is you've got to network with other real estate investors. The reason this is important is because your peers around you will actually influence you a tremendous amount. One of my rules for investing is that if I find a new deal, I have to run that deal by 2 or 3 or 4 other investors. Even now at this stage, even after I've done probably over 100 real estate deals, I've still got to have somebody else look at them because they can see what I can't. You've got to have a peer group around you. Now, in my coaching program called CoLiving Master University, we're doing this for each other. We're like, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, I think that might cost more than you think it is. Hey, what about this? Hey, I don't think you did those numbers right? We're giving each other that perspective to make sure we don't end up in a deal that could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars, or just is in a terrible location and won't rent or something like that. You have to have those additional perspectives. Number 5 is just to research the market that you want to go in. So this is a little bit different in that, for example, I would not go to California and invest. I just don't see the positive population growth. I don't see that area going the direction that I want it to go for me to invest in for the long term. I'm young. I'm going to be owning these properties for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, if that makes sense. So for me, I looked at a couple of areas. I almost had an opportunity to buy a property in, I think it was Indianapolis. And I just thought, you know what? I researched the area. I didn't think that area was going in the direction that I wanted to see it go in. So I said, you know what? I like investing in Charlotte and Asheville. Why? Because I know the area, I understand the area, and I see that more people are moving to this area. So if you can be in an area that's got positive population growth, not only will your house appreciate more because there's a supply demand, you have more demand for the limited supply that's there. That's basic economics. Your prices are going to go up. You're going to be able to charge more in rents. And of course, you're going to stay more full if you're in the right area. You've got to do your research before selecting an area. I'm a huge fan on once you select an area, go all in on that area. I know some people say to diversify, I want one home here, but in the co-living world, you get economies of scale when you start to get one home in one area, and then two, and then three, and then four, and then five. And that's why I really research the area well to know it's the area I want to be in, and then I go all in on that area. All right, now comes the hard part. You've got to start analyzing all of these properties that you've now found in that area you want to be in. So analyzing a property means doing the numbers, having a spreadsheet. You can get one of those spreadsheets by coming to one of my 5-day challenges. We give it out as a gift as one of my 5-day challenges where you insert all the numbers and you get to see what return this property is going to make. Another way that you can do this is by simply making sure it has the right parking, making sure no HOAs if it's co-living, but just making sure it has all of the little details that you need to have for the right property. And again, I'm specifically talking about co-living properties right now. So I wrote a few notes down. You got to stay away from HOA neighborhoods. You got to make sure there's enough parking. Those are the biggest. And then you've got to make sure the home has the right layout for co-living. So you start to analyze a bunch of properties. The rule you should follow is 100 to 1. This comes from Robert Kiyosaki. He says, before you buy one property, and if you're a new investor, you need to look at 100. You might say, oh my gosh, that sounds like a lot of work. Yes, but it's work that will pay off because you'll be looking at so many deals. You'll have a competitive advantage and you'll be buying better deals than all the other investors because you're looking over ones and you're finding the ones that are just perfect. Even today, I still look at probably 100 deals before I buy one. It's a great rule to follow, right from Robert Kiyosaki, the main man himself. Number 7 is you gotta run test ads. So once you find that location, once you find that right neighborhood, once you know you're going all in on this area, or at least you're gonna invest in this area, run test ads. So what's a test ad? It's kind of like a fake ad a little bit. I don't mean faking and bad. I just mean like you're going to take some pictures, you're going to write a nice description, you're going to post on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. And what you're going to do is you're just going to run an ad for a house. Once they respond to that ad, don't just ghost these people. Actually reach out and say, actually, I'm creating a waiting list for a co-living house. You can even put that in the description if you really wanted to be fully transparent. Although I have found that not as many people respond that way. But this gives you an idea for the demand. How many people are reaching out to you about this room? You can test at different price points. You can put ads at different price points. And you can reach back out to them and say, hey, I'm actually creating a waiting list. I don't have this home quite yet, but here's what I would like to do. I'd like to put you on the waiting list. So could you just tell me your name? Could you just tell me when you're looking to move and what your budget is? And do you understand that this is a co-living home that you're going to be sharing with other people? That simple strategy gives you the confidence to buy a home in an area and know, like, there's demand. How do I know? I already ran an ad. I already got responses and they were real people because they then responded to my inquiries about their status and when they're looking to move. So you know they're real people, you get a sense for the market. If you only have one person reach out to a couple ads you put out, maybe think twice about that area. But if you have a consistent demand, you're probably fine and give you the confidence. Go buy that home, go rehab it, go build that co-living. This is the strategy that I use all across the United States with my clients in Co-Living Master University to test their markets to make sure that it's a good market for co-living. Now, if it's not a good market for co-living and you find out you don't have enough demand, then you go to another market, right? You research another market. It's that simple. All right, number 8, you've got to secure your financing. This is super key. We talked about this a little bit in the beginning. You're researching all your loans, you've got your pre-approval, and now it's time to go to your bank and say, I'm ready. I've got a house. I got the money. Let's freaking go. My recommendation is if there's any way possible you can do this and you're just getting started, try the house hack model. It's a little different take on co-living. See, co-living is when you invest in these homes and you don't live in them at all. That's co-living. That's a sophisticated investment strategy that produces 2, 3, 4, 5 times the returns of a normal rental sometimes. It's blowing up for that reason in the United States. It's the new trending thing, right? But if you don't have the ability to put larger down payments on these houses and use investor loans, then what you have to do is you've got to use it as a primary residence loan or even a second home loan. So what I'd recommend you do is go buy a house, tell Mr. Banker, I'm gonna live in this house. You can tell them or not tell them you're gonna have roommates, but as long as you're living in the house for at least 1 year, you can now get 3% down, 3.5% down, some cases 0% down, or 5% down. Now you have to save a lot less and you can use less capital to go into that first home. For my first 5 or 6 properties, this is exactly what I did. I'd live in one home for a year, then I'd go back to that same banker and be like, I'm buying a new primary residence. And he was like, wait, you just bought one a year ago. I was like, yeah, but I can do it again, right? It's legal. He's like, yeah, you can. So he'd give me another loan, 5% down. And I would just move from house to house every year. And then as I lived in them, I'd turn them into the best co-living homes with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, however many housemates, right? That's how I initially built the co-living portfolio. All right, number 9 is renovate and launch. See, when you renovate, you might have to add a bathroom. You might have to put up some walls and some doors. You might have to add some smoke detectors. You got to make sure these houses are clean and they're quiet and they're safe. Once you do that, it's time to launch your home. I only furnish the common area, so I don't even furnish the bedrooms. So if you have a nicely furnished common area, it feels like home when you walk in, the parking is all situated, you're in a non-HOA neighborhood, which are the big things, then you get ready to launch this home. Now, one of the things I've done when I launch is to make sure that I label all the cabinet space and the refrigerator space. It's super key to do this because that way you'll avoid conflicts and tension over little places where people put their stuff. I even started labeling where people put their dishwasher stuff. Not their dishwasher stuff. What's the stuff you put in the laundry room? The laundry stuff that you use to wash your clothes. You can tell I don't do laundry very often, okay? And the last one, number 10, is to develop a strong co-living lease. You need a lease with every single house rule that you can think of to be added into that lease, and you need the ability to evict someone if they break that house rule. This is super key, and it varies per state. If you're part of Co-Living Master University, I've done a lot of this work for you. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars in building out co-living leases that you get to use for templates. But otherwise, you gotta go talk to a lawyer and you gotta have them build you out one that specifically is for room rentals. I recommend that you look it over and you make sure that it is everything. It's just super, super tight and that it has all the house rules to eliminate those conflicts. If you follow those 10 steps, you can simply walk in and launch your next home, and you can be a co-living or a rental investor too. Hope these 10 steps were helpful for you and you got some value. If it was, like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. I hope to see you on a 5-day challenge coming up soon, or just following you on my social media profiles. The links will all be in the description. See you guys soon.